Welcome to Jeff and Jamie Feed, episode 1. This is so exciting.
This is going to be fun. So today we're kind of going back in time.
We are going back in time. But should we talk a little bit about what we're actually going to talk about on the feed?
Sure.
It is just going to be a deep dive into what we do. So little kind of behind the scenes look of hospitality business.
And the restaurant business and business overall, because I think there's a lot that people can learn by looking at the hospitality business and restaurant business in terms of, all the challenges that we face, because those are very applicable to businesses across the board.
I am so happy that Paul Manley, our first business partner, is coming on here. We actually met in a hospitality tent at a NASCAR race, which is pretty cool. So we go way back, but I was working for a race team. He was working for one of the sponsors, and we got along really, really well and had, similar ideals and goals, and we just got to be good friends.
I love that. And he has now risen to have a number of different restaurants that are favorites around Charlotte, Ace No. 3, Sea Level, and Waterman. And he has a hospitality company called High Tide. But today we are lucky because we're going to go back in time a little bit to 2009 when we opened our very first restaurant, Crêpe Cellar Kitchen and Pub. It's actually located next door to where we are right now at Growler's Poorhouse. And it was just a little 11-table eatery, and just a crazy time to open a restaurant. And I would love for you to set the stage a little bit about what that was, why in the world we went into this business, and kind of what the setting was for the economy opening a restaurant at that time in 2009.
This is awesome because it really is the culmination of us quitting our jobs, traveling around the world, coming back to Charlotte, and still being totally lost, not having a clue.
We went on an overseas trip in order to find ourselves, and we came back more lost than ever.
So we come back, and we had been, I had been dreaming about having a little cafe. We talked about how cool it would be, and when we got back, I finally got the nerve up to say, I want to open a restaurant in a recession, the worst of times, but it actually ended up being the best time to do it ever because every restaurant's closing. There was lots of, restaurant equipment available, and people would actually talk to us about leasing their spaces. I think if a couple like us asked to lease a space in today's day and age, you would just get laughed out of the room. You have zero restaurant experience. We didn't know anything about the restaurant business, really.
We did not. We had never run our own business, let alone the restaurant business. I had once applied to be a busser at a restaurant and didn't get the job.
Because you didn't have a pen.
Because I forgot a pen.
Kids, bring a pen to your restaurant interview.
That's right. So this was a totally new venture for us, which is really the reason why you brought on a business partner.
Yeah. This was kind of the key to setting everything up correctly, to building our culture, building what we've built today. We wouldn't be here without Paul, and it's really cool, I think, to bring him, get the gang back together.
I was joking with him before this that we've jumped into some crazy endeavors before. Today we're bringing him on our very first podcast, so this is nothing compared to jumping into the restaurant business together.
To do our first restaurant.
That's right.
And the first day that I worked in a restaurant was as an owner. So I'm sitting there, just wide-eyed. Incredible.
There was a lot to learn. Well, without further ado, let's bring on Paul and let's just talk to him about, all the experience he has had, changes that have happened since 2009, a lot of insights that he has that can just shed light on the business overall and business in general, and find ways to kind of learn from what he's learned over the years. And I think we're going to learn a lot today.
Let's do it.
All right, so welcome today, Paul Manley. We are so glad to have you here. You have been a dear friend, a mentor, a person who we have relied on in so many different ways to just help steer us along our path. And we're so grateful you're here with us as a guest today.
It's an honor. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Just to set this up, I was going to text you yesterday. And by the way, you're still in my favorites on my iPhone, which the number of restaurant business partners that have like separated their restaurant groups and gotten this far, they're still talking to each other is probably pretty slim. So I think we're doing pretty well.
Doing great.
Yeah. But as I clicked on your contact information, I noticed that I had your landline number in my phone still, but even better than your landline number, this is how long we've known each other. I had your home fax number. In your contact.
That was
I knew
essential.
that was a thing.
It was. There was no way to like do hundreds of things.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's
Wow.
crazy.
That's awesome.
I remember when we got a digital fax and we could do it all by email for a little while.
Like you could check your email and the fax came in your email. You were like, we're high tech.
Like, I'm killing these guys. Yeah. That was awesome.
I'm bringing you back on track.
Thank you.
So Paul joined us back in 2009 when we were opening up a little restaurant called Crêpe Cellar Kitchen and Pub. Thank God he joined us because we really had no idea what we were doing. You worked for ownership of the business at the time.
I did.
And you had a number of different consulting jobs that you were doing at the time as well.
I was a bit of a horse trader when it came to restaurant ownership. Yes, at that time, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So I and your story about, you going through and traveling and coming back with this dream to open a restaurant, it started a little bit on your trip because I was hoping I could bring it here today and I couldn't find it, but I know I have it. You sent me a postcard from your travels, and I don't know where it was from, but it was a metal postcard with sunflowers on it.
I know exactly which postcard you're talking about because I had dozens of those.
And I had received that, and I think that you were still on your trip or you had just gotten back. I'm not sure, but you sent me this nice little thing, which is one of the things I learned from you guys, is particularly you taught me how to be a gift giver and how those kind of things can be super important to somebody or meaningful. And you sent me this. I've never seen a metal postcard before. And I got it, and it was just a simple little with your chicken scratch writing on it.
Yeah, terrible.
Of let's talk about a restaurant if you so choose to do so.
And the first thing you did was sit me down and try to talk me out of it.
Oh, 100%. That's my job. That was my job. Yeah, I was convinced that it's like, okay, I'm going in with this, and he's gonna be crying by the end of this conversation. And,
why do that? Why convince people not to go into the restaurant? Was it that specific time or just in general?
No, I think that the success rate in our business is small, right? And a lot of times I think that's because people go in ill prepared, and I think that I like cooking, and I'm a good entertainer, so I'm going to open up a bakery or a restaurant. And I think that your first move was, hey, we don't know what we're doing, but we really want to do this. Let me talk to somebody within the industry and see if we can figure out maybe some of those obstacles overcome. And that was the first thing you did. Was you were like, we don't know what we're doing. You didn't pretend that you did. And it's not like I knew all the answers, but I was in the industry. I spent my whole career in here. So I think that was the first part of like overcoming that first obstacle where people a lot of times are, have this illusion of this fun and it is fun, but all
great.
The things that happen.
Not lucrative, but fun.
Yeah, seldom lucrative, but always fun.
But I remember when finally you were like, okay, these guys are in and going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you got so excited because we just had an 11 table spot.
Right.
And I also, I wasn't one of those people that had a job and was like, yeah, I want to open up a restaurant. I was like
he was unemployed teaching tennis.
We're going to be in the trenches together. And once you figured that out, you're like, yeah, we can the two of us can just muscle this place, like whatever it needs. And
right, we can handle it.
Yeah. You were like 11 tables. Yeah. Dude, like you and I, we got this, And I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, tell us about that first night of we got this.
I love your story from the first night.
Well, I remember the first night as the doors open and we had people waiting to come in, and we filled that place up. There were 3 people deep at the bar,
and we didn't know them either.
Yeah, right. I looked around. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know these people. This is amazing. They were actual real people, and that was the most. That was an amazing feeling that people came to enjoy something that we all had made.
Right.
And I remember going back to the bathroom hallway and being so excited, like I couldn't believe people actually came, you know? It was a high. And I think that's something that restaurants are. I mean, there's these highs and there are lows.
I remember that a little bit differently than you do.
Sure, because you were in Expo and running around.
Me too.
No, I was making crepes. I was on the crepe griddle, and we had to learn the craft of making crepes because nobody knew it. So we went through all that. And I remember going through the first shift, and it's just like the kitchen's a disaster. People, somebody's in tears probably. And we go to check the sales, and it's like $1,400 in sales, and I'm like, "Oh, we're screwed."
That's
like,
what I remember. The three of us at the end of the night, we go to the POS, and I go pop it up, and like the look on your face, and I think it was $1,200 and some change, and you're like, "That was the hardest $1,200 ever made in the history of the world." I was like, holy moly!
But it was also. But it was, there was a timing thing too, because it was 2009, right? And so nobody was in, and it's not like that was your master plan to suddenly open up a restaurant in the worst economic time that the city had seen in however long that had been. But it was also there was a natural focus on the restaurant because there wasn't a lot of restaurants opening at the time,
right?
And so to your point, there were people that were rooting for us. And rooting for the restaurant and rooting for you guys and loved your story. And there was a certain momentum there that was nice that would have gotten lost in better times.
It wasn't that hard to be top 10 best new restaurant 2009.
There were only 6. But we made the list.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I think part of it too, a testament of that time was I remember when we were hiring and there was a line down the street of
incredible.
People who wanted jobs, and the news came out to cover that story, not of people who wanted to eat at our restaurant, but people who wanted a job to work at our restaurant.
We hired everybody in one afternoon. We did. open invitation, and we just sat at booths, and it was just one after another. And you're like, hey, I like this one. Go talk to them.
And we also hired, bankers and tech people and things like that had just lost their job. And
at one point, a year into us opening, I think we had like 3 or 4 Ivy League people. So went to UVA a few days.
There were a lot of master's degrees in that dining room.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
So 2000 time was a pretty spectacular time to open a restaurant for sure. And but you have a number of restaurants now. You've got Sea Level, you've got the Waterman, you've got Ace No. 3, and a lot has changed since 2009.
It has.
What would you say are some of the biggest things that you've seen evolve since then that impact your businesses now on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I mean, the biggest component of it stays the same. It's just taking care of people and trying to, serve great meals and create great experiences and provide hospitality. And, the landscape constantly changes, but I don't think that the playbook changes a whole lot in my experience, So I think that, we're in great economic times right now, or our city is growing at a very rapid rate. And to me, there's opportunity there as you all know. But I think that a large part of it is sometimes you can get distracted by all that kind of stuff and lose focus on the core piece. And I don't think from the first day of Crêpe Cellar to today, walking into my restaurants, I don't think a lot has changed as far as what the focus is.
I love that. And that's something, truly Jeff talks about this all the time, not just to me, but to our restaurant group overall. And it's something that we had learned from you guys. Why don't you talk about that? Because I know it's so dear to your heart.
I mean, there's one principle that we start every meeting off with, and it's the principle of hospitality that you brought to us, and it's having a servant's heart. And why don't you talk a little bit about that? I mean, that is your saying, and we've appropriated it. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I mean, it really, the hospitality piece is at the core of everything, and I think that's what resonated with you when I said I wanted to open a restaurant. I loved food, I loved cooking, and I loved all of that, but I was going at it when I looked at my goals and like who I was. The hospitality piece was really what I wanted to share, and then you put it into words for me. And
I appreciate that. And I think that, but you understood that part of it without maybe knowing the words, but you understood that this was a place to make people happy. Right.
Yeah.
And so, the core of our, we have a company called High Tide Hospitality, and the core of that whole thing is just providing, is my number one goal is to surround myself with people that genuinely want to care for others. And I think that we can teach you to saute, we can teach you to bartend, we can teach you all these other things, accounting or whatever. But if you don't have that innate need to please others and to take care of others, then you don't belong in hospitality. And I think that we've even gotten more so adamant that we empower the teams. We have 220 people that work in this company, and we empower them to guard that with make it sacred, so that servant's heart is. It's biblical. It's also it's in any modern or any religion really is taking care of others, and that's where hospitality to me means. It's the innate desire that when somebody opens that door and someone decides to come into your business, that you genuinely just want nothing more than to take care of them and provide a great experience to them. So that's at the core, and I learned that along the way, and I worked in environments that wasn't important. And that even taught me even more so when we came together, that was like the number one thing is that we have to understand that we're taking care of people.
I love that so much, because I think a lot of times these days, especially, I feel myself getting tripped up in all of the change that's happening and all the things that we have to do to adapt and modify or grow into or do differently. And you talking about, hey, it's actually pretty simple. It's taking care of people. It's offering the best of what you have to give them something beautiful, a beautiful dining experience or a beautiful food, whatever it might be. And I know I get caught up in seeing those trends, the trends and the changes that have been happening. And
well, they're important. You don't want to be left behind. You don't want to.
You have to be so nimble. And I think that right now, especially, and I don't know if you feel this way, but we talk about, it feels like exponential change right now. Like there was always change.
Yeah.
But it feels exponential right now. I don't know if you guys are dealing with that at all.
I think one of the things that helps for me in my perspective is, we have one of our brands is Ace No. 3. It's a burger brand, and we just sell cheeseburgers.
It's a great cheeseburger
It's
spot.
a simple menu. It's a tiny menu. We've got, a couple of specials and things like that. But we're just selling cheeseburgers, shakes, and beer. And that's all. And that's what we do. And it kind of helps to, it keeps everybody sometimes from those parameters of trying to, find the next big thing or what's happening trend-wise. And you do have to stay in touch with that stuff. But a lot of times it's like, hey, let's just have really good bread, have a fantastic beef. Let's just make a really good cheeseburger, and that's timeless, right?
That's awesome.
And so I sometimes it's my job to kind of reel people back in to be like, let's focus on what we do the best, and I think that I've never been one that's much of a pioneer. I don't, I'd rather. I've just never been someone that's going to be the first to do something. Typically, I'm going to be someone who's going to study and kind of stand back a little bit and see what works and what doesn't. And if something, I never got into the frozen yogurt business,
That was real hot for a while.
It was, but is it hot now?
It is. Yeah,
it is not.
It is not. But burgers are.
But burgers are. They're timeless. So I think that I've always been one that's a little bit more observant, and then see what happens and see what sticks, and then we'll jump in there.
I love what you do there, because it is so classic, and you've got you've incredibly warm service at those, just very kind-hearted people.
Thank
And it feels good to walk in there, and it's delicious food. It is that timeless food. It's classic, and that sells.
Yeah.
And I had to annoy the crap out of you, though, because I always want to do new stuff. And I always, you would be like, yeah, this is how we do it in the restaurant business. And I'm like, I don't like that. Can we do it this way?
I saw this setup, this studio setup, and I was like, Jeff's been here.
He loves all this equipment.
This is his thing. Yeah, you were all, but you also, like I didn't know
a
about
lot of research though went into,
I didn't know about beer engines.
Right.
I didn't know anything about that, but you knew all about that because you found it interesting. So
right.
You would bring things, and I would sometimes have to shut them down. Like I'm not really interested in doing whatever that is, but there was just cool stuff. But it takes enthusiasm and it takes curiosity in this industry. And I think that that's the curiosity piece and the enthusiasm you had, covered. And so we were able to, take some standards of practice and adapt them into your, genuine curiosity and your genuine enthusiasm for the industry and learning and that kind of stuff. So, but yes, did we always have the latest gadgets that we couldn't afford? Yeah, I think we did have those things. Yeah,
we sure did. Well, let's talk a little bit about one trend that I know is impacting us greatly, and I'm sure you're seeing it too, and that is the decline in alcohol consumption. Mm-hmm. That's something, you look at 2009 versus where we are now, and even just in the last couple years, how much that has dropped and how that's impacting business. I mean, both of you, I'm sure, can speak to this.
Yeah, I blocked it out, but you can go ahead.
Well, I started drinking. So. No, I think there's nothing a whole lot you can do about it other than just be great at what you do and then just find other ways to entertain people. So if there's a business formula that requires you to sell a certain amount of alcohol, you can fight it, or you can just be creative on how you get the check average that you need from a business standpoint. And if it's not from behind the bar, which is, where you would like to get it from, then you have to get it out of the kitchen or in some other way. So I think that for us, we're just, we're messing around with different drinks, but we're not going to create, we're not going to suddenly create the drink that's going to change the trend that's going to change that piece. So I just feel like we have to adapt to that and just be great and have interesting wines. And, you all do a fantastic job of that. You got, phenomenal bar program. And so I don't know if we change that trajectory. We just do the best we can within it. And I think that's ultimately what restaurant business is. There's, tavern was part of the, the independence of the country of forming the U.S. And so taverns are still a thing today. Mm-hmm. They've changed a lot what they do, but they still serve the same purpose. So I'm not too worried about that. It is a pain. It's a problem. And also we talked about that. Everybody they close out their tab every time. You're like, we used to run tabs and forget about it.
Right?
I lost so many credit cards that way.
You guys are so responsible, Gen Z. You're
right.
So responsible.
Well, they still go out and have a good time, but they're just like, they're very, I don't really understand that part. But other than that,
I mean, I think for us, we're straight up, we're down 10% in alcohol sales, which in a business like ours that we joke about that it's hard to make money. It's really, really hard to stay profitable, and the margins are super slim. So when you have 3, 4, 5% margins, and then you're losing 10% of your income. Now, I think we've fought hard, and we're really focusing on the NA beverage and really, really trying to do the best job we can of a beverage program in total. And so we can get 2% back from NA or whatever, and
that's where the adaptation comes from. Like, it doesn't have to be in the form of a vodka. It can be in a form of a lot of other things.
Of other things. So we're really trying to, kind of pick up everything we can on the margins and operate more efficiently. But I think at some point we have to get that 6-7% revenin back. And where does it come from? Where does it come from? I don't think you can raise prices much more, in this environment. But at some point, restaurants need to stay profitable.
And I don't want to sound like an old timer, but it is harder to make money now than it was 10 years ago. 15 years ago. It's just a more difficult business to make it profitable, and so you just have to be disciplined in that, and you just have to what I'm finding is that we you have to find it in pennies and dollars, and so you do a great job with procurement and try to get the best deals you can.
It's just great though that we love it so much. That part doesn't even really matter.
It doesn't really matter. I go back to the fact that there's nothing. I spend too much time in the office, in the computer, or in meetings. A lot of meetings. But my favorite part of the day still is just to walk into sea level or go into the Waterman. That's and just talk with the staff and have a great time and visit tables and
you probably
glad
still
hand
shucking
people.
An oyster
I shuck often. I do because I love it. That's my safety zone, right? I'm shucking tonight, actually.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
that's so awesome.
but that's the part of the business that is rewarding and whatnot. You know, the less meetings, more time on the floor.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
I love that. Well, and that speaks to going back to that hospitality piece that is so central to you and your business overall too. Another trend besides the alcohol consumption going down, and I really love how you talking about being so flexible with that. But another one is that it's third-party delivery. A lot of people are eating on their couches at home, and what does that do to dining? And I know we're certainly impacted by that, particularly because a lot of our places are very, I'll say, experiential. You know, they're experience driven. We've got locations in old churches, old buildings. You're meant to be there and experience coursed food, and
you're all in on the family dining aspect. You know,
family
the
dining.
and sharing
It'd
plates.
be really nice to have the best burger place in town.
Yes.
Well, I mean, you know, that part of it is, you know, it's. I look at it a little bit of the necessary evil because your control of the experience leaves when the food leaves your restaurant.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And so no matter what happens, the fries are not as good when you get them at home. You know, and the first thing you do when you open up your bag is you eat a fry. And you judge your meal from that fry on. And when that fry is cold or mushy or whatever, then you're like, I guess it's going to be, you know. So, and so, you know, and that industry is changes evolving. Then this company buys that company, and this you know, this rate changes and all those kind of things. And so, you know, it's we charge more for online food, and we're not apologetic about it because it's an expensive premium thing. And if you do want to sit on your couch and you do want to enjoy a cheeseburger, you are going to pay a little bit more for it. And I think people are willing to, and that they understand that piece. But I don't like it because the fact of it ruins the experience for the guest. You know, it's just not going to be as good when you get it at home and eat it there. So that's what I don't like about it.
And Jeff, I mean, you can speak to this, but in terms of like, we don't do third party from some of our spots, like Supperland, for instance, we don't bother doing that.
Yeah, it just seems silly that you're getting an $80 steak and we like wrap it up and send it to your house.
Right.
It just
because part of that $80 steak is that experience of that beautiful plate that you're eating it off, and the music that you're listening to, and the lighting in the room, and the company that you keep, and the fact that you got a little dressed up to go and eat that thing. But then you're in your pajamas, and you're like, this isn't worth it. It's like, no kidding, dude. You're missing out on 80% of the experience.
Do you remember we used to have some local people in Noda here that would get our French onion soup?
Yeah.
And it used to, you know, come in a crock and have the cheese melted on it. And we just got to the point where we're like, I'll just walk the crock to your office and just give it back to me sometime, because this is dumb. Though, like we're putting a
you're doing
raw
crock
piece
inventory
of
on Monday and say, I got three over there, and I got 2 down the street.
But I mean, it was
Daryl's got 4.
we're like given a styrofoam cup with a raw piece of cheese on top was like the best. You know, like we're like, this does not work.
Yeah, it is a component that it is, and I don't know. I mean, I would hate to try to predict the future of what that looks like, but I think that people recognize that it does lack the hospitality piece of that. And we do as much as we can to try to get that hospitality and that experience in the bag and to your house, but there's always going to be something missing.
You guys do an awesome job with like just labeling everything. You know, when you get your bag, like, you know, whose stuff is whose. And I'm always really impressed with that, especially if you're eating with a bunch of gluten-free kids. And
Yeah. Got to get it right.
That kind of stuff.
And I'll tell you, there's no more crime committed to somebody when they are in their pajamas and they're on their couch and they get their burger from us and it's missing the fries. Like it is a personal assault on them. You know, like there's just nothing worse than that, than missing, you know, the
and it's
sauce
hard to make it up to them.
It is.
You can't go touch the table, talk to them.
We send them a gift card and that kind of stuff, but it's like, they wanted that fry in their mouth right now. Like that's what the whole reason why they went online.
That's exactly
and ordered that. So there's hospitality in that too. But so we just try to control as much as we can from it, and then follow, you know, kind of what those trends are and what's working, excuse me, and not. And but that's kind of, you know, that's I think that where we end up in another 5 years in that whole model will be different than where we are right now. And the lack of profitability for the operators, for the restaurant companies, that will have to come to head at some point.
And so I have one kind of final thing to end on, which
Yeah.
I think is something that I hadn't seen before and seemed pretty novel. And I think it's so cool having you here and talking to you that, you know, you kind of had your reset in 2009 where you started doing your restaurant consulting and we jumped into this. And now the two of us, we have, you know, almost 600 employees, 500 and some employees, and Charlotte's been really good to us. So I think that's incredible. But growth wise, there's not a bank in town that will loan money to a restaurant. It's just not something that banks do. I don't think it's very wise for banks. I understand. But you were able to do kind of create a stock situation to raise money for your next restaurant. So how did that go? What do you think about it? Will you do it in the future? Talk to me a little bit about how it works and what hoops you had to jump through.
Yeah, it's an expensive business for a startup. I don't have it falling out of my pockets. I'm not a wealthy person. And so whenever a new opportunity comes or we decide to do something, there's always the capital raising piece of it. And I've done a few different things. I've had a few different partners, and I've tried to do a few different things, and some has worked and some hasn't. And I've had to buy some partners out, and just because of personalities or just the deal didn't work, whatever. And so we tried a new thing with this we're opening up a new Ace right in the middle of Uptown. And we tried this new method of Class A, Class B, and selling shares in the restaurant. And I really like it because it makes us have to perform. Like it's not just paying us back or me and, you know, my main partner, Dennis, and, you know, there's a small group of us, but there's 20 people that would like to see their money returned to them and get a return on that investment. So it is high risk, just like restaurant business is high risk, but people do have portfolios where they do need to have some risk in their portfolio. And so I'm excited about it because we were able to raise it pretty easily to sell 20 shares in a company. And it also puts the pressure on us to really perform and really answer to more people than that. And so
do you
it's
think
got to be the right piece of real estate.
Yeah.
It's got to be the right formula. We've got to have the right team. Like, you know, instead of just be accountable for us, I've always been better at being accountable to others than I have been to being accountable to myself.
It feels so good to write those checks to the investors where,
Oh, it's
where
amazing.
like
Yeah.
people believe in you and they've given you their money to perform, and those distributions always feel so good when you know.
I have a main investor named Dennis Thompson, and there's nothing better for me than when I like performing well, but I like performing well for him better.
Yeah.
I like it when I can just send him a check and or hand it to him and that kind of stuff. It really makes the whole thing worth it. So we're gonna try it. I don't know the end of the story yet, but I'll inform you. But it was well received, and I think that, you know, I'm excited about it.
What is next for you with that project? What's or any other projects? What's coming up for you?
You know, I've never been a very good planner, so I don't think that it's a very good. We just, you know, we have 3 exciting brands right now. We are working on a 4th brand right now, and which I'm excited about. Kind of takes me back to more upscale dining again. But we went through. So I've had, you know, this version of my company of High Tide Hospitality. We've had it for 10 years, and we've gone through a lot of changes and morphed into other things. And we've had a couple of setbacks. We've had some leadership changeover that really kind of needed to happen, and made them some tough decisions and find some better talent. And I was able to. And through that course, we lost a restaurant. You know, we went out of business at one of the restaurants, which is financially brutal, but also just really killer, because you go into a community, you set up shop, and you make a promise to that community that you're going to be there for a long time, and you're going to serve that community, and you're going to build that clientele and hire the people that live in that community. And when you fail, you don't just fail because you lost money. You failed that area. You failed in a lot of different ways. And so that whole experience for us made me kind of build a better team. And so now I'm super excited about the team that I have. And I feel like we can accomplish a lot more. So I can push the gas on growth or innovation or changes or discipline, those kind of things, because we have the team to be able to do it. We're the previous, you know, form of that team. We didn't change everybody out, but we had to make a few strategic moves. And so I'm excited about our ability to grow. And if the burger thing works and we raised capital that way and people want to do it again, we're going to do it again. So
I love that. And that's such a good example too of just being nimble in your business and figuring out, okay, well, this is working in other places, almost a little bit like crowdsourcing, I guess, in its own way. But you've found a new way to succeed in such a challenging business, particularly with starting up. But we can't thank you enough for
it's been a pleasure
coming on today.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
I love having the gang back together.
It's great.
In Growlers.
In Growlers.
And I do want to take the opportunity to say just how proud I am of you too. Where we started in 2009 and you've grown so much, Jeff, so much. I mean, I can't emphasize enough. No, but I really am proud of what y'all have built, and you do it for the right reason. You do it because you love the industry, you do like taking care of people, and you do enjoy the hospitality part of it, and you do like fun and interesting projects and stuff. And so I'm super proud of y'all, what you've done, and I look forward to more.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for taking the time to come on here and jump in a new venture here with us,
Absolutely.
too. All right. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, man.
Okay, so I loved having him on here. It's so great to go back in time and to also just hear his insights on where he's come and, all that he's learned along the way. And I know we're traveling similar paths with our different concepts and facing these different trends and everything in maybe slightly different ways, but it's so helpful to just hear how he's going about things too.
We missed some of the stories about how we were in a barn, like picking up booths and for Growlers, and
it was a pretty scrappy time opening up our first restaurants, right? Crêpe Cellar and then Growlers, where we are here now too. It was scrappy times.
We'd be looking at a piece of restaurant equipment and we're like, I think it's gonna run. You hand the guy some cash and walk out.
So just listening to the conversation there, what for you was a key takeaway?
It's still, for me, talking to Paul, it always just brings me back to that hospitality piece and how much he cares and how much we care. Even when he's talking about closing a restaurant and how he really feels like he's letting the community down and the neighborhood down. I remember when we'd have a crazy snow day and his goal was to open the restaurants, knowing that we would lose more money if we opened the restaurants, just because he felt like, hey, we have some employees that can walk, and whatever we can get open and whatever we can do, we have to service the community and get them food. If they can walk there and need a place to go and need a place to be warm, we should do that. Like, we have power.
And have a fun time. Like, it's setting them up to have a great time, and that.
It was always just a commitment to the neighborhood and the community. So I love how much he cares. It's awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people don't realize, people in the restaurant business, sure, you're trying to make money, but it is like this draws a very unusual type of people who are willing to put themselves out there and create something, and you don't know if people are going to show up. You don't know if your restaurant's going to be full. You don't know if you're going to make money, but you're creating something to bring joy to other people. And, I surely get spun out sometimes that, our revenue numbers weren't where I want them to be, or, there's all these trends happening that are pulling us down. And I think the way he talks about it is so hopeful. And it's not about getting pulled down. It's how do you kind of look at things in a strategic way and in a way that can make your business better. And I think that's a really powerful thing, that truly that one piece of hospitality is what it all comes down to. And all the other things are just things we get caught up in that maybe aren't that important. So I'm grateful he came on, and I think we can wrap up our first episode here. And
that was really fun. I enjoyed it.
I think it was great. Well, thank you all for listening, and please stay tuned for our next one. We'll look forward to hanging out with you again soon.